right, I think I'm on. Good morning, everybody. If you'd like to stand with us today and start worshiping, we're going to be singing a traditional hymn starting off called Ancient Words, so I'd love for you to sing with me. Holy words long preserved for our walk in this world, they resound with God's own heart. Oh, let the ancient words impart words of life, words of hope, give us strength. Help us cope in this world where'er we roam. Ancient words will guide us home. Ancient words ever true, changing me and changing you. We have come with open hearts. Oh, let the ancient words impart holy words of our faith, handed down to this age, came to us through sacrifice. Oh, heed the faithful words of Christ. Holy words long preserved for our walk in this world, they resound with God's own heart. Oh, let the ancient words impart ancient words ever true, changing me and changing you. We have come with open hearts. Oh, let the ancient words impart. We have come with open hearts. Oh, let the ancient words impart. Peace, bring it all to peace. The storm surrounding me, let it break at your name still. Call the sea to still, the rage in me to still every wave at your name. Jesus, Jesus, Let me be filled with kindness and compassion for the one for whom you loved and gave your son. For humanity, increase my love. Help me to love with open arms like you do. A love that erases all the lies and sees the truth. Oh, that when they look in my eyes, they would see you. Even in just a smile, they would feel the Father's love. How you love us, from the homeless to the famous and in between. You formed us, you made us carefully, 'cause in the end, we're all your children. So help me to love with open arms like you do. A love that erases all the lies and sees the truth. Oh, that when they look in my eyes, they would see you. Even in just a smile, they could feel the Father's love. So let all my life tell of who you are, and the wonder of the never-ending love. Oh, let all my life tell of who you are, that you're wonderful and such a good Father. So let all my life tell of who you are, and the wonder of your never-ending love. Well, let all my life tell of who you are, that you're wonderful and such a good Father. That you are wonderful and such a good Father. So help me to love with open arms like you do. A love that erases all the lies and sees the truth. Oh, that when they look in my eyes, they would see you. Even in just a smile, they would feel the Father's love. Even in just a smile, they would feel the Father's love.
So today we are continuing our sermon series for Lent, The Dying Life. And, we're in the as we wrestle with the idea that, sometimes there are things that need to die so that better things, so that maybe even eternal kinds of things can live. That's what we're kind of dealing with in this sermon series for The Dying Life. So Lent is the 40 days before Easter. It's a time when we remember the days leading up to the death of Jesus. In the book of Luke, there's 24 chapters, and Jesus dies in chapter 23. But already in chapter 9, we see Jesus, preparing to die because he knows that death is the way to life. And we see this kind of reflected in Luke chapter 9, verse 51, where it says, "As the time approached for him to be taken up to heaven, Jesus resolutely set out for Jerusalem." That Jesus goes to Jerusalem knowing that death is what waits him there. So Jesus in those days leading up to the cross was preparing to die. So during Lent, we are asking the question, what if dying isn't the enemy, but an invitation? Jesus walked a path of death, literal and symbolic, to show us that life begins where we let go. Lent is a season of intentional dying to ego, dying to fear, dying to the ordinary. It's a journey through the ashes of what was toward the fire of what could be, the eternal, new life, and resurrection. So today's message, we're dealing with the death of control. That's the thing that we maybe need to kill in our lives, the need to control. And hey, can we be honest just for a second? Some of you are control freaks, right? I mean, and probably, maybe you're not even subtle about it. And you know who you are. You're the person who has to drive when the family goes on a road trip. Or, because no one else knows how to use the gas pedal or the brake or the steering wheel quite correctly. Or maybe worse yet, maybe even worse, you're the person who has to be in control from the passenger seat. Yeah. You know who I'm talking about. Maybe you can tell you're a control freak because you're one of those people who, even when you're at someone else's house, has to put the toilet paper on the right way. And like Tom's got a slide for us, there is a correct way to do it. And yeah, that is it. And the last one, come on, people. Don't be lazy. It just takes a second. And, and there are no absolutes, or very, very few absolutes in the world. So that overhand way is the right way most of the time. But there are exceptions. Like if you have cats who like to play with the toilet paper, overhand is a bad idea. So, there's always reasons to do something different. So for those of you sitting there thinking, well, I'm not controlling, your denial is the first symptom, right? Because we all have this deep instinctual need to control things. It's not about being bossy. It's about survival. We think, if I can just keep my hands on the wheel, if I can steer my life the right way and anticipate the curves ahead, if I can just avoid the potholes, then maybe I'll be okay. Maybe life will make sense. But control is just an illusion. Faith is an adventure. Have you ever tried to hold water in your hands? And the tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips away. And you end up with nothing. Nothing but clenched fists and frustration. That's what control does to your soul. It promises security, but it leaves you empty. So today we're going to dive into Mark chapter 14, verses 32 to 36, where we find Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. Gethsemane, it sounds like I'm lifting, doesn't it? It's a hard one. I'll probably mess it up a bunch of times. But Jesus is praying in the garden, hours before, a day or so before the cross. He's not just facing death, he's facing the ultimate surrender. So let's look at Mark 14, verses 32 to 36. They went to a place called Gethsemane, and Jesus said to his disciples, "Sit here while I pray." He took Peter and James and John along with him, and he began to be deeply disturbed and troubled. "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death," he said to them. "Stay here and keep watch." And then going a little further, he fell to the ground and prayed that if possible, the hour might pass from him. Abba, Father, he said, everything is possible for you, but take this cup from me. Yet, not what I will, but what you will. We see later on in this passage, just a few verses later, that Jesus' friends, the three guys he took with him to kind of support him, they can't even stay awake. It's frustrating. It's an important moment, and they're sleeping. You can understand why sometimes we just want to control people, get them to do the right thing. And when they don't, it's disappointing, right? I'm sure it was disappointing for Jesus to have these three guys he took with him in this moment where he's leading up to his death, and they can't even stay awake. But when you try and control people, you can only justify that if you think that you're for sure right. You can control people when you want to control people when you're just sure that your way is the right way. But what if you're not right? What if you're the one that needs to change your mind? If you're not even open to that possibility of changing your mind, you never will. So that desire to control other people just makes your mind more rigid. It makes you just sure that your way is the right way. And think about it. What are the ways that we try and control people? I cannot think of one good way that doesn't, or one way we try to control people that doesn't tap into our dark side. You know, we control people through like guilt and shame, through fear and manipulation. None of those are good things. They're all like the worst parts of ourselves. And Jesus, actually was right about what he believed. He does know what's best. But even he who knows the right things for us, he doesn't stand over the disciples with a cattle prod, ready to zap them when they fall asleep. Because he knows that controlling people is just the wrong thing. You can persuade people. You can reason with people. And sometimes if they know that you really care about them, they might listen to you. But trying to control people, it's never, ever a good thing. Controlling ourselves, that's a good thing. Knowing when to surrender control is a good thing. And we have our hands full with that, truthfully. And Jesus understands how hard it can be. How hard it can be to just surrender our desire to control, when what we really want is to be in control. So in the garden, Jesus he's deeply distressed and troubled. His soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. And in that raw, desperate moment, he prays something that changes everything. He says, Abba. It's an intimate kind of way of addressing God. Daddy, Father, everything's possible for you. Take this cup from me. Yet, not what I will, but what you will. In this story in the Gospel of Luke, we're told that Jesus is so distressed that he sweats blood. Have you ever seen somebody sweat blood? I have. I was in a bodybuilding contest probably, 20-some years ago now. And this guy, we were backstage, and some of us are talking, and there's a guy, and he's like, look, I'm sweating blood. And he was. Little drops of blood coming out in his sweat. It wasn't like running all over his body or anything, but there was definitely blood, like coming out like sweat. And he just wiped it off. And I remember thinking at the time, like, wow, this is a real thing. People actually do this. And Jesus isn't sweating blood just because he's anxious about all the pain that's ahead of him, the torment, the beating, the nails. Part of the agony he's wrestling with is because he's killing his own grip on the story. He's dying to control so that he can live for the Father's plan. Not what I will, but what you will. And in that act, in that surrender, he shows us a truth that we desperately need this Lent. That real power isn't in holding on, it's in letting go. Letting go doesn't shrink you, it opens you. It's scary. Sure, Jesus does not pray, your will, not mine, with a grin. He prayed it through tears, through agony, sweating blood. Surrender is not a picnic. It's a kind of dying. But it's the good kind. It's the kind of dying that leads somewhere. Surrender is a fight. It's a good fight. It's not about giving up. It's about breaking free. Surrender is hard. It's sacrifice. It's not, floating around like Forrest Gump's feather, just blown by the wind, whatever way, Jesus is not calling you to be an amoeba. He's calling you to be responsible, to make choices, to exercise some self-control. One of the fruits of the Spirit, one of the things the Spirit produces in us is self-control. The kind of control that leads you to choose to submit to God's will for your life, whatever that is. But it's still your choice that you're responsible for. So make choices. Don't sit on your hands. Make plans. But be ready to change direction when God leads you in a way that you hadn't planned. When I take a trip, I always have an idea where I'm going. I probably even have some idea how I'm going to get there. But I might still turn on that GPS on my phone because I know that GPS knows stuff that I can't possibly know. It's analyzing all the traffic patterns and stuff, and it knows where things are backed up, and it may change its mind in the middle when something happens and suggest an alternative way. Maybe there was an accident that happens, and it might suggest a way around that so you're not stuck in that mess. I remember one time I was driving up around one of the suburbs in Chicago, and those little side things where there used to be toll booths, but now there aren't anymore. You just got to pay them online or get an iPass. And so it said, exit here, and it's onto one of those little siding things. And I'm like, that's so crazy, it has to be right, So I'm like, get off this little thing where the toll booth used to be, driving, and there I see, back where I was, a big accident. And I'm just driving around, didn't hardly even have to slow down, because my GPS knew something I couldn't know. Maybe my GPS might tell me something that's ahead that may need to adjust my behavior. Like there's a policeman at a speed trap ahead, and so now I've got to slow down a little bit just to make sure that I'm not going to get a ticket. And God is like that. He knows what's ahead of us. He tells us, maybe an alternate way we need to go if we need to do something different. He tells us when we need to adjust our behavior because he sees what we're doing. He knows what's ahead of us. And, but I'm still responsible for my choices. I still decide whether to turn the car or not turn the car. I'm still responsible for preparing. I've still got to gas up the car. I've still got to check the oil and change that when it's needed. I still do those things to prepare for whatever may be ahead of me, but I'm just open and listening to what God's saying and open to changing my mind. And that's where, we mess up this idea of surrender. We hear things like, let go of control. And we think, sweet, I'm off duty. God's driving now. Hope he's got snacks. But that's not the deal. God is not here to chauffeur us around while we nap in the back seat. He still wants us to drive, to make choices, to take action, to keep the car running. But he's like the GPS, and sometimes his directions may seem crazy, like get off on this little toll booth road, turn left into the wilderness. That seems nuts when there's this excellent highway straight ahead of me. But God is like, hey, trust me. I got the map. I know where we're going. I know what's ahead. I know the best way for us to go. And sometimes we got to, especially when it seems like it makes no sense to us, just say yes. Yep. Now sometimes though we can insist on our own way, we can hold on so tight to what we want, and it's a trap. I may have told you before, like how sometimes they trap monkeys is by like they get these gourds and they hollow them out and they tie them to a tree or something, and they cut a hole in the gourd just big enough for the monkey to fit his hand into, and then they fill it with like a mushed up banana or rice or something the monkey wants to eat. And the monkey will come and he'll stick his hand in that hole to get the food, and he'll grab it, and when he makes a fist, he can't pull his hand out of the hole in that gourd. He's stuck there. And the person who's trapping the monkeys will come, and they'll come right up to the monkey, and the monkey will be fighting for all his might to get out of that trap, but he won't let go. That thing he's holding on to that he wants so desperately, he won't let go. All he has to do to escape is to let go, but he won't. Sometimes we're like that. We just have a clenched fist with the things that we want. I was watching a TV show a couple weeks ago, and in this one scene, the father is talking to his son, and the dad's he's made a lot of mistakes in his life, and his marriage is kind of a going through the motions kind of thing, and he's talking to his son about some of the mistakes he's made with his wife, and he just wants his kid to learn from his mistakes, you know. So he's just going to be honest with him, and he says, you know what? He says life is like this battle inside of us, where there's two voices. One is the monkey. The monkey just wants what it wants, doesn't care about consequences. And on the other side is the man. And the man knows the right thing to do. He has a conscience. He has a higher calling for his life. And there's this battle between the monkey and the man. He's telling his son, be the man, not the monkey. Do the right thing, even when it's hard. Learn from my mistakes, he's saying to his son. Sometimes you just got to let go of that stuff that you think you want and listen to the things that God knows are good for you and the best for you. Well, back in Gethsemane, Jesus didn't just survive that prayer. He walked out stronger. He faced the cross because he'd already let go of the outcome. And this letting go didn't end in defeat. It ended in an empty tomb. It ended in resurrection. It ended in life. Jesus had to die to his own control in Gethsemane before the resurrection could happen. And the same is true for us. Because when you stop trying to write the script, you'll discover that God has already written a better ending than you could ever have imagined. And I get it. Like, we all understand. Sometimes you just want to be in control because being out of control feels so like, ugh. And being in control just makes us feel safe. But as a follower of Jesus, being safe is a terrible goal. You know, this week I thought I was done writing the sermon, and then, like Friday, I'm in the car, and I'm listening to a podcast, and I know you all are going to think, like, all I listen to is Erwin McManus podcast. It's not true. I listen to all kinds of people. I listen to people I don't agree with, because that's important. But, you know, Erwin, like, he's the person, for me, who says things that, you know, I wish I would say, who thinks about things like I wish I would think about them. And so a lot of times he does have an impact on my life. So I'm listening to this podcast, and Erwin is on with his son Aaron, and they're telling a story about when Aaron, who is like an adult now in his 30s, when Aaron was 8 or 9 years old, he'd gone to church camp. And he might have been a little younger than that, seven maybe. But he'd gone to church camp, and he had come back from church camp, and his dad was tucking him into bed that first night back, and got up and went to turn the light off in the bedroom. And Aaron's like, "Hey, Dad, can you leave the light on? I'm really scared." And he said this is the first time this had ever happened. So he went back and sat on the bed with me. He's like, what's going on? Why are you scared? He's like, well, they were telling stories at church camp, and I'm really scared. And Erwin's like, oh, buddy, ghosts are not real. And Aaron says, Dad, they weren't telling stories about ghosts. They were telling stories about the devil. And he's like, oh, the devil. Well, he's real. And he's like, well, Dad, then would you pray for God to keep me safe? And I'm thinking, that's what I would have done. I would have prayed for my kid that God would keep him safe. Make your kid feel better, right? But you know what Erwin said? He said, no, I'm not going to pray that prayer. Because as soon as his son said that, pray that God keep me safe, he felt like that was like the beginning of what so many Christians go through, this domestication of Christians where they just want to be safe. And he says, I didn't want my son's life goal in life to be safe. I didn't want that to be his life goal. So I said, no. I won't pray that God keeps you safe, but I will pray that God will make you dangerous. I'll pray that God will make you so dangerous that whatever evil is in any room that would want to flee from you. And Aaron said, okay, but then pray that God would make me really dangerous. Too often, we just want to control things so that we can feel safe. But what we really need is to surrender so that God can make us dangerous in all the best ways. If you keep holding on to what you want, you're going to stay stuck in survival mode. Your fists clenched, white-knuckling life. But if you open your hands, you'll find that God can fill them with things that you could never have orchestrated yourself. So maybe the most powerful thing you can do this week is to let go. Let go of the fear that tells you to play it safe and ask God to instead make you dangerous. Let go of the need to try and control the people around you. Let go of that future that you've been rehearsing in your head. Let go of that outcome that you've been desiring. Because real power isn't in how tightly you hold on. It's in how bravely you let go. When we surrender control, we make room for God to move. Maybe today you just need to surrender to God, maybe for the first time, that you've been trying to do things your way, and maybe you've been doing a fairly good job of it. But You just need to surrender so that he can make you more. Just need to give him your life. And so it's a simple prayer. If you need to do that today, just pray it. God, I give you my life. And that's the beginning of a conversation that will go on for the rest of your life. There'll be things beyond that. That's the beginning. God, I give you my life. Maybe you need to surrender some other little thing that's going on in your life, something that you hold on to that gives you some control, that makes you feel like you're powerful or whatever. Something you need to let go of today. Maybe it's just maybe your next step is to join the church or be baptized. If those things are going on in your life, if you need to be baptized, if you need to give your life to Jesus for the first time, please talk to me after church and think about those things that you need to give up as the band sings this last song.
Come out of sadness from wherever you've been. Come broken-hearted, let the rescue begin. Come find your mercy, oh sinner, come kneel. Earth has no sorrow that heaven can heal. So lay down your burden, lay down your shame. All who are broken, lift up your face. Oh, wonder, come. Oh, you're not too far. So lay down your hurt, lay down your heart, come as you. There's hope for the hopeless, for all those who have strayed. Come sit at the table, come taste the grace. There's rest for the weary, rest that endures. Earth has no sorrow that heaven can cure. So lay down your burdens, lay down your shame. All who are broken, lift up your face. Oh, wonder, come. Oh, you're not too far. So lay down your hurt, lay down your heart, come as you are, come as you are, fall in his arms, come as you are. There's joy for the morning, oh sinner, be still. Earth has no sorrow that heaven can heal. Earth has no sorrow that heaven can't heal. So lay down your burdens, lay down your shame. All who are broken, lift up your face. Oh, wonder, come. You're not too far. So lay down your hurt, lay down your heart, come as you are, fall in his arms, come as you are.
Thank you for coming. We love you. God bless you. Have a great week.